Hey guys, it's Ben Reed with the Next Gen Sales Leaders Podcast. I'm here with Thomas Dadourian, the myth, the legend. Feel free to introduce yourself, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ben. I'm just excited to be here. Yeah, a little bit about me. Um, kind of the short story of it is very, very proud to say that I built the number one pre-launch crowdfunding agency and consultancy in the world, and then was able to built it. We had at its peak 65 employees. Have launched over $100 million worth of crowdfunding and e-commerce brands. Absolutely killed it for our clients. Can go into a lot more detail about crowdfunding. Validated thousands of products, tested thousands of different products. Found a lot of bad ducklings in there, but again, the ones that did well raised over $100 million for them, primarily via Kickstarter and Indiegogo, and successfully exited. So built it, sold out, exited, and off doing other really really cool things, teaching, consulting, all sorts of other fun stuff.
Cool, man. So yeah, you have a fun background, and I'd love to understand, like, go back to the beginning. Like, how did Thomas become Thomas?
Yeah, I'll tell you how Thomas became Thomas and Launch Boom became Launch Boom. Yeah, if we're gonna go way back, I actually went to. I was planning on going to medical school, so fun kind of like backstory. I was working in labs at UCSD, primarily neuroscience labs, and much more long story short, I'm gonna skip past building Triton Television and a bunch of other things, but,
You grew
uh,
up in California?
I did,
Yeah,
yes. Yeah, I grew up in Los
San
Angeles.
Diego. Oh, Los Angeles. Okay.
Yeah, I grew up in Los Angeles, then went to school in San Diego. And, yeah, I went to UCSD and, yeah, basically, while I was still a student, built just a small videography agency. And so we had, we'd work with larger clients like Red Bull and then smaller clients like, at the time, Drew Canoli, who then ultimately became Organifi, and, that's a whole story.
I
But
love how
yes,
you like drop like your small clients Organifi and like your big clients like one of the biggest brands
Red
on
Bull,
planet
yeah.
Earth. Like, how
But
wait, how
it
okay,
wasn't
hold on.
Organifi yet. It was not Organifi yet. It was just he met me while I was, like, filming at I was filming for a local magazine at a juice bar, and he's like, "Yo, dude, we should do some work together." But
And
sorry.
okay, hold on, wait, there's so much to
Yep.
unpack there because okay, how does a college student land like, okay, what's the scope of Red Bull? Is this like some, like, local version of Red Bull, or is this, like, you're actually working with a major brand, or like you have to give us context there because that's, like,
Yeah,
the
okay,
hardest thing to
I'll
do
give
on
you
planet Earth, you
yeah,
know?
so I'll give you some context. So, we're going way back, when I was, at UCSD. I didn't know I couldn't do a lot of things, and so I just did things. And so one of those things that I did that I didn't know I couldn't do was I started the film and television station at UCSD, called Triton Television. Now, there's a whole longer story there involving another television station called SRTV that Triton Television was kind of built on top of its burnt, dead, really bad carcass. That's a whole other thing. But, long story short, was able to raise a bunch of money from the university and built this program, that took students that had never done film or television, myself being one of those, right? So, well, okay, I gotta you keep getting me to, like, keep going back. So,
There's
I grew
layers,
up
man, there's layers.
there's so many layers. We're just peeling this onion. So, I actually grew up in the film industry. So, this is like, I should not be putting this on a podcast, but what the heck, you're Ben, so you get the vulnerability being one of your core values. You're getting the full
Let's
story.
go.
I was actually a child actor.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, so I was a child actor. I grew up in the industry. I was in Stuart Little 2 and, like, a whole bunch, like, McDonald's commercials and all of that, but I was not into I have mad respect for actors, like, such a huge respect for actors, but, like, I always wanted to know what was happening behind the camera, right?
Mm.
I was really into the business side of filmmaking, and I was really into, directing, producing, all of that, and so
Now I wanna know how you became a child actor, like, I
yeah.
mean, it's like
we're just gonna keep going back. So the first film I was ever in was a show called Sister Sister at the age of 2. I was a extra in a hospital. We've gone all the way back. It's because
Wow.
my family actually grew up around the industry. It's LA, grew up in the industry. Mom's a psychiatrist, dad's a psychologist. So more things are probably making sense now.
Mhm.
And, they did consulting for business and industry, Disney being a big client of theirs. They had a bunch of other, large production studios, lots of friends that were casting directors, and so, you know, basically nepotism is great, and,
Isn't it? It
it's
helps, doesn't it?
fantastic, it
I
totally
wish I
helps.
had nepotism in my life. Holy shit.
So if we're really peeling the onion here, it's nepotism's the first layer, right?
Perfect.
My family knew people, and that's usually how it starts. And so, at least in the film industry, that's how it starts. Because even hustling can be really challenging. But that's how I got in. Did again, just started doing extra stuff. My family, of course, were really wanted me to become a doctor, or lawyer, that kind of deal. And so they saw it as a very well-paying side gig as a you know, I don't know, 6-year-old. So which is great. And because it did pay very, very well. To the point where actually, so I'm getting into more other random fun stories, just from a business perspective, is I took everything that I saved as a kid, as a child actor, and then when I went to college at UCSD, I actually was able to buy a house in La Jolla, which is again, housing prices back then even were like a lot better than they are even now, but bought a house in La Jolla, rented the rooms to my, like, fellow college students at a very reasonable rate in order to pay off the mortgage, and then when I graduated, I paid off mine and my sister's education, and so
So you're real estate
fun.
mogul, child
Real estate's
star,
yep, there
working
you
with
go.
Red Bull when you're in
Red
school. I
Bull.
mean,
S
like, Jesus Christ, man. Like,
so,
you know,
I was just exposed to it, like, I mean, my parents just really exposed me to it at a really early age, I mean, I was listening to, like, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, on the way to, I don't know, piano lessons was, like, the vibe, and so my parents were both doctors, really well educated, they stressed, they're very, very had very high expectations, they pushed me to, perform well, and so, but yeah, back to Red Bull, how did I get Red Bull as a client? Well, at UCSD, I saw a huge opportunity, stepped in, built Triton Television. I had taken a course at USC's film school over the summer because I had been kind of contemplating between whether or not to go to UCSD, or whether or not to go to USC's film school. Going this like doctor path or this film path was kind of like pulling me in these directions. But ultimately, I was like, okay, doctor, that's the, neuroscience, that's the way that I want to go. But I still took that course because I thought it was awesome and I really loved filmmaking. And I basically took that course and then I brought it to UCSD and then taught basically the class that I took to other
mm,
students to help them go from like literally zero filmmaking experience to being able to charge like $500 a half day, working on production sets or doing videography stuff in the local market. And so that's kind of like I love teaching. I love teaching people. That's kinda how I started was, you know, doing these, like, one-off gigs, and the way that I got it was I was just making content that I thought was cool, and
mm,
so the 2 big ones that got landed me Red Bull, and then the other one that landed me Drew was, um, the Red Bull one was AMP was so this was back when, like, AMP Energy was, like, a big deal, and it was on campus, and I knew one of the
right.
reps, and I was like, "Look, if I make a commercial for you, will you get me one of those, like, fridges and then keep it stocked with, like, energy drinks, like, nonstop in the studio? Because we need some form of caffeine
That's
24/7 in order to
amazing.
edit our videos." He's like, "Sure, yeah, make a commercial, talk to corporate, see what we can do." I'm like, "Awesome." And so we did,
So
made
wait,
that
hold on,
yeah.
pause there. So the first offer was a casual, "I'm gonna do something free for you," and a very low
Yes.
ask,
Yes.
like there was like I know this is nuanced, but this is actually really fascinating from my perspective because, I'm
The
right,
sales,
next
yeah,
gen sales rep.
exactly. It's sales,
Um,
exactly, yeah. It's
but the
fantastic.
thing is that it seems like you did that intuitively, and it seems like you
Yes.
weren't, like, angling or like hacking the system. It seems like you were genuinely interested in just getting some free wet Red Bull. Is that right?
Oh, 100, well, not Red Bull yet. So first one, AMP,
Oh,
right?
amp,
So
right. Okay.
AMP. So, like, I wanted AMP, not Red Bull.
So
Um,
essentially you made like a, hey, I want this free gift thing, and I'm gonna go to this person that probably can get it for me, and I'm gonna provide them some value completely free, but it's
yep,
probably a lot more valuable than what they're gonna give me. And it was
totally.
kind of like a great win-win situation.
Totally, exactly,
Yeah.
and it was fun
Fascinating.
for
Okay.
me. I hadn't done a ton of commercial work. I had a really cool idea that I wanted to do, and so we did it, and it was a massive hit. They loved it. They, like, used it a bunch, like, didn't get paid for it other than got that little fridge with AMP, and then had another friend of mine on campus, who was actually a Red Bull rep, and he was like, "Dude, why didn't you talk to me? Like,
Oh
why didn't you
god.
talk to me?" So, like, I basically got them fighting each other, and so Red Bull basically was like, "Okay, look, you guys do that commercial you made for AMP was awesome, but you're gonna come work for Red Bull now." And they're like, "We're gonna get you a fridge, and we're gonna pay you." And so we were like,
This is like
"Let's."
perfect, like the way that you just stumbled into this, it seems like,
Yeah.
or intuitively, is like perfect example of like, the old strategy of give more than you take and then
Yep.
product led growth. It's like
Yep. Oh,
you
yeah.
created a
10 out
great
10 out of 10.
product
10 out
and
of 10.
then you just probably just, hey, yeah, I did this thing. And they're like,
Yeah,
holy
yeah,
shit, like you do that for a thing. I want that thing. And then it's
yeah,
like, but that's why the product matters, man. It's like, it doesn't matter how
yeah.
good it sales. You did the first thing right. But if you don't get the freaking deliverable right, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and it was great too because, like, the niche that I was in, like, UCSD is not known for filmmaking at all. Like, there's no film, television. I mean, Benicio del Toro came out of there. There was a couple, like, the Cracks.com guys came out of there. Like, there was definitely the theater department's nuts. Like, there's a lot coming out of there, but the other thing that really allowed this to happen was this was a niche market. Like, it was definitely a niche market. Like, there weren't a lot of people
I hate to
doing
interrupt you. You
filmmaking.
might
Yeah.
be peaking a lot on your mic.
Oh,
You might
sorry.
want to,
Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
I'll
just
move
want
it
to make sure
away.
that we don't get too poppy on the
Thank you.
recording.
Get a little passionate there. Look at the
Yeah,
peas popping.
exactly.
So, is that better?
A little bit. You might have to go even further. Yep.
Okay. That better?
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, much better. Okay.
We'll move it all the way out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go. Awesome. But yeah, so it was a niche market too, which was, really helped a lot. And, so yeah, and then same thing happened. I did another video for another thing, and somebody was like, "Hey, who the heck made this video? This video is amazing," and it ended up going viral, and they're like, I was like, "Yeah, it's me." He's like, "Well, do you wanna go do work, for this local magazine making video content? Like, do you wanna go do all this other stuff and start getting paid to do what you love doing?" And absolutely. And so, again, more long story short, started again, videography is really where I started, making content. Through that process, through building Triton Television, I realized that this is what I wanted to do full time. I didn't want to go to medical school. And I realized that, hey, if I really wanted to make a difference in this world, then content, marketing, business, I could have a much bigger impact than being, let's say, like an ER doctor or an anesthesiologist, which is a one-to-one, relationship versus like, hey, if I can market this really cool product that helps alleviate back pain,
Mm,
like the neck hammock that we sold millions of units of that gave, thousands and thousands and thousands of people relief through a really cool, affordable traction device, then I'm gonna have more impact. And
mm.
that was what drove me to going into marketing and filmmaking. And that's the other thing too, is like filmmaking in general is just so powerful. I mean, it shapes like storytelling as human. If you ever read Sapiens, right?
Mhm.
Storytelling is like what makes humans humans, right? Our
Mhm.
ability to like get behind ideas. And
Mhm.
so if you want to be at the like, if you want to put your finger to the pulse of that, filmmaking, content, the creator economy, storytelling, that's exactly where that is. And that's where that's happening, like really shaping the future of our civilization for the better or for the worst, depending on who's the one making whoever the person is making the content.
You know what's so funny about that though is like for me, professional salesperson, sold millions of dollars of contracts. I tell everybody, hey, look, you got to lay stories, examples into your selling. But the funny thing is like when I'm now doing my own personal brand, it's a
Yeah,
completely different way for me, as you know. Tom's been helping me with that. Uh, and
you're doing great, by the
the
way. It's a grind. It's a
It's a
grind.
grind, but the thing is it took me 3 months to 6 months of creating the wrong type of content, which wasn't story-based content. It was a little story-based in the beginning, but I was so far in the weeds that I wasn't simplifying it into a 60-second content unit. But it's like an example of how coming back to this idea of telling stories, it's like, it seems so cliche and so obvious, but like even people that have been in sales and marketing for years somehow can like get too focused on the features or the wrong parts of the angle and just realize like if you're authentic and you tell a genuine story that resonates with people, people will reach out. I mean, literally yesterday, this guy reached out and he's like, "Hey man, I saw your thing because of this journey you're going on, and I looked at some of your educational content." And he's like, "The only reason I followed you is because I deeply resonated with what you said on the first video." And he's like, "I just want you to know I appreciate what you're doing and just keep it up." And I was like, "Dude, you're the first person to reach out
Yeah.
to me on that." And I'm like, "That's awesome."
Yes. Wait, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Let's
So
go.
anyway, sorry for digressing.
No, 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 that's fantastic. But I answered the so yeah, that's how Red Bull became a thing, and then, you know, again, that's how work ended up working for local San Diego magazines, and through one of those shoots, met Drew, started doing a bunch of stuff for FitLife TV, became FitLife TV showrunner, and then I guess this is
What's
kind
a
of what
showrunner?
basically, it's a cross between like CMO beats producer, right? I was responsible for all of his content. So like
Mm,
writing it, producing it, shooting it, editing it. Again, I had a team, so I wasn't the only person shooting and editing, but yeah, basically, if you saw it on FitLife TV, I touched it in some way, shape, or form, or made sure that
mm,
that got to where it needed to be, and helped grow a community on Facebook called Juicing Vegetables from 0 to, like, 2 million in about a year to 2 years. And a lot of our stuff, as I know we've talked about, ended up in, Russell Brunson's book, .com Secrets. So,
mm,
a lot of the, like, landing pages which is I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So, I was making this great video content, but then the problem is at first, it wasn't going anywhere, right?
mm.
Like, it was it was going places, it was going viral, people were talking about it, but,
When you
it
say
wasn't
it,
getting
what
sales.
what
The
what
the
exactly?
video.
Oh, okay. So you were generating content, people resonated with it, but it wasn't generating sales.
Revenue, exactly, exactly. And so, because, to do that, you needed a funnel, right? You needed a landing page, and you needed to have a squeeze page in order to get opt-ins, and then you needed email marketing in order to,
Mhm,
keep the list engaged, and you needed advertising in order to get new people in that haven't already seen the videos, right? There's all of these I felt like I was building these, like, golden cities in the middle of the desert, and nobody was coming.
mm,
And so from that process, that's how I got into, okay, I need to get into marketing. I needed to get into digital marketing. And through that process, ended up learning from some really, really talented people in some of the best advertisers, marketers in the San Diego area. Because there was a lot there. It was crazy. It was
mhm.
like a little mecca for marketing.
It happened
And
like Scottsdale, Arizona. Like,
yeah, it's so random. It's so crazy.
yeah.
You never think that, but hey, they like the beach. Um, and so through that process, ended up meeting individuals that I would then bring in to be my business partners. Somebody is like, "Oh, hey, Mike was one of my business partners. He was really good at web dev, right? Could not do dev to save my life. Hey, come on, be a business partner." Mark, Will, all these individuals. Will came a little bit later. Each of these individuals kind of had their own strengths and superpowers, and so amassed this team in order to be able to serve my video clients better
Mm,
by being able to provide the whole deal and the whole package,
mm,
which was awesome. And then anything that we didn't do and I couldn't hire for, I would then go learn myself. And so, like, a great example of that was digital marketing. Once we had built a full agency rather than just this, boutique video company, right? We then became a full agency called the Label Creative, which then progressed into Launch Boom. And I did the same thing when I was like, hey, I want to learn how to be the best digital marketer out there, right? How am I going to go do that, right? Yeah, I could watch courses on YouTube, but they're only giving me like the bare minimum and they're trying to sell me stuff. As like an early agency owner, I didn't have a whole lot of money to pay for courses. And so I again went to people I knew, and I actually ended up knowing the people who ran the advertising for the Coolest Cooler. I don't know if you
mm.
saw that Kickstarter campaign, that was a huge bust. I have the whole inside scoop on, like, what happened with that campaign, but I cannot share it on the podcast, I'm sorry.
No.
I'm so sorry. But,
Are you
through
allowed
the
to
ad
share the Russell Brunson story?
no.
Okay.
No,
It's
definitely not. Yeah.
you know this.
No, yeah, no, I can't expose people like that. But,
We
maybe
got
in the
that.
future.
That's a hook. That's a hook.
Yeah,
I like
yeah, so you gotta keep watching, maybe, you gotta keep watching Ben's podcast because you never know when I'll pop in and share the story. So,
exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
gotta open that loop. But anyway, so I went to these guys that did the advertising for Cool is Cooler, and they were also, another big marketer person whose name I can't mention, unfortunately, but they were their kind of like right hand advertisers. And I basically traded with them. I was like, "Hey, you guys need to know how to do social media and video production. I need to know how to do digital marketing for my clients. Let's trade." And so I taught them video production, workflows, built that all out for them, helped them, got them started making some content, gave them some direction, and they taught me everything they knew about running ads on Facebook and Instagram and Google, etc. And it was awesome. And then from they learn from the best, most cutting edge individuals spending millions of dollars a month on these platforms. And then that's exactly what I did. I then started doing that for our clients at LaunchBoom. Again, LaunchBoom was then when we niched into crowdfunding. We said goodbye to Red Bull and niched into the crowdfunding space when we really realized that that's what we wanted to do and what we enjoyed doing the most.
Mm.
And so again, it's going back to that concept of like, if you can't do something or don't know how to do something, learn a skill and then give that skill away. And, you can kind of keep, I know you've got the learn sign right there. Keep learning, right? The learn sign is always keep learning. And sometimes those can be some of the best connections is learning from those individuals.
So that's interesting. So you said something that I hadn't characterized it in that way, but it is an interesting take on it, which is learn a valuable skill and give it away.
Yep,
So it's
exactly.
not sell it, it's give it
No,
away.
I didn't sell it to them. But in a way I traded, right? I was like, I traded, I guess, more than gave it away, right? Is like, here is my skill set. I'm really good at this one thing. And I was like known in the San Diego area. Like, if you needed video, you talk to Tom, right?
Mhm,
Like I was the video guy. But I knew I didn't want to just be the video guy. So again, I wanted to be the digital marketing guy. I wanted to be the spends millions of dollars on Facebook and Instagram a month guy. And
mhm,
so I found that guy and I traded. So
mhm,
here now you're really good at video and now I'm really good at digital marketing and now I can go do the digital marketing stuff and you can go do the video.
mhm,
And it was great. It was fantastic. And that's exactly what we did. Crushed it for our clients. In our first crowdfunding campaign, we did like, I don't know, 60,000 for the EcoCube. The original EcoCube campaign, which was our very first crowdfunding campaign ever. And then our second campaign was the EcoCube C. We did 360,000 and then doubled
mhm,
that on the back end with upsells.
mhm,
And then we did, $1 million campaign or another $100,000, high $100,000, then million campaign, and was able to progress from there. But that's again more deep
yeah, it's
stories.
fascinating. I mean, it's kind of like, you know how, like, you'll hear somebody say something and then you're like, "Wait, that connects to that, that connects to that." It
Yeah,
just kind of like clicked for me is like what you just said is also what I intuitively did, like we talked about for my first agency clients when I had my first marketing firm where I was part owner in. And I'd same exact thing. Like I was like, "Hey, Bob, I see that I was more selling." So I wasn't like
mm,
just geeked out because I wanted like some Red Bull. So I did have a
yeah,
more specific tactic, but my tactic was kind of the same thing of like, look, I know that intuitively I was like the number one reason they won't start with me is because they have risk and they don't believe me. And so I was like, look, how can I get this guy to just give me a chance? And I was like, I'll do it for free, and I'll say,
uh,
hey, look, like I'm gonna spend my own money. All you have to do is give me this, like not big commitment. And if I give you value, then we can keep on working together. And that was kind of like my way in. And that's how we built the agency to $1 million in months. And so 7 months,
it's
whatever it was. But it seems like you did the same thing. And what's interesting is not that I want to bring Kanye West into this podcast, but I'm going to is that he says in his documentary, if you watch it, he says that like remember he was the beats maker, right? He was the instrumental guy.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's what he was known as, kinda like you're like, "I don't wanna be the video guy."
Yeah,
You know, I
exactly.
wanna be the rapper, right? And
Yeah.
so he did the same thing where he was everyone's instrumental guy, and that got him into the room. And so he got to sit over the
Exactly.
shoulder of Jay-Z and all these guys, and finally
Exactly.
he's like, "Yo, I got a track." And then he, like, shot a shot, and then it went well. But if you watch the documentary, there was, like, this, like, whole period of time where he just was, like, pigeonholed into this thing, but he was in the room, and that's, like, it sounds
Yeah.
like to be pretty important, you know?
Oh, 100%. Because that was it, because then being in the room, that's how I got all my first clients.
Mm.
You know, they all talked to each other. I had a great product. All these big marketing guys, you know, needed video. They had all the other things, but they didn't have video, because it's very high touch, and there wasn't a huge market for that in the San Diego area, and so found the niche, nailed it, and then going through that process, discovered that, okay, hey, love making videos for all of these things, but, like, what we're really passionate about was the crowdfunding process. The ability to take somebody who had a really cool idea that had not been out there before and go from 0 to 6 figures in, like, 6 to 9 months, and do that over and over and over again. Because 'cause I'm really big on self-efficacy, and for me, again, if making a video that wasn't getting out there didn't feel good, because I was very results driven, and I really wanted to, see the results, the fruits of, whatever it was we were creating, and there was nothing like the crowdfunding space that did that for us, like, that, again, being able to literally go from 0, an idea, or in some situations, like, we launched a hotel that was just a bunch of renders. They didn't even own the land yet. They didn't have a physical location, and we were able to help them raise, was it 600 over $600,000, to go build the property, and then did it again for another, property that, again, just had renders, just had a really, really cool idea, and raise over $1,000,000.
So
And
I
so
think it's important for the audience, and I know most of our listeners, I'm assuming, are gonna be sales marketing professionals, so it's probably an
yeah,
obvious statement. Can you just break down what we're talking about at the highest level? Like, for the most like, dumb it down to, like, a 5th
yeah,
grade
yes,
level.
absolutely,
Like, what do
crowdfunding specifically.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, so when I'm talking about crowdfunding, there's crowdfunding, there's 2 or 3 different areas of crowdfunding. So first is nonprofit crowdfunding, so that's, think like GoFundMe, right? Somebody has a problem, you're donating, and you're just giving goodwill. Then on the other end of the spectrum, you have things like WeFunder and Start Engine, which are equity-based crowdfunding. And so when people say crowdfunding, that could be something that comes up. They're, uh, giving money in exchange for equity, right? So maybe not a ton of money, but a little bit of money for a little bit of equity. And then in the middle, you have what we call rewards-based crowdfunding, which is Kickstarter and Indiegogo, where there might be a social component. You're not giving up any equity. Instead, what you're really doing is you're pre-ordering, or you're getting behind an idea or a product before it's in the market. So, for example, if I have, like, a really cool
I would
water
watch your
bottle.
mic again. It's
Oh,
getting
thank you.
popped.
Thank you, thank you.
Sorry.
It's all good. So if you've got, like, a really cool water bottle that doesn't actually, maybe you just have a prototype of it before you go to, because traditionally, right, pre-crowdfunding, let's say you wanted to go launch a product, how would you do that, right? I would need to go buy a ton of inventory,
Done that.
stock this, right? Stock this inventory in a warehouse,
Done that.
pay for that, right? I was like, "Bet, come on, crowdfunding, my man."
Mm.
Uh, and sit on that inventory that's burning a hole in your pocket, or your living room, depending on how you're doing things, and then hope that people are gonna buy it, and then either get it in stores, or you're selling it through direct consumer e-commerce, and then you're moving that inventory. The way that crowdfunding works is I start with this, so it's an idea of a really cool bottle, right? And I get everybody really excited about that really cool idea, whether it's with a prototype, let's say, or with renders, and I get people to pre-order that product, usually at a discount. So they're, spending they're paying 40% off MSRP, to give me their money immediately, and then I send them this product in 6 to 12 to 24 months after they've backed this project, right? Because they believe in me. It's again, crowdfunding is really cool because you don't get to like, talk to the CEO of Nike, right?
Mm.
You get to actually, with crowdfunding, get to interact directly with the founder. You get to, have that interaction. It's a very fun community building experience. And you get to see something come to life that wasn't there before. And there is that expectation that, it does take a while to produce product. And so they don't expect it immediately. They'll wait 3, 6, 12, 24 months to get that product. And so instead of so basically the idea with crowdfunding is I don't go to my manufacturer and start producing this product until I know I have a massive audience, right? I've already got 10,000 orders, right, placed so that I can go get a much better deal from my manufacturer. I can, reduce all the risk, right? Because for me, and we can definitely have a deep dive on this subject about risk, is when it comes to starting businesses, the coolest thing about entrepreneurship in today's day and age, whether you're in sales or marketing or, starting your own business, is the ability to reduce risk right now is nuts. It's absolutely nuts. I mean, with tools like ChatGPT and Dolly and all of that, the ability to raise capital, to build a community with social media, to build a following before you ever have to spend money on manufacturing. You can instead focus on building up an idea. And when that idea is ready to pop, then you do. And it's a massively, wildly successful campaign that raises tons of money and is extremely profitable, right? Because the goal here is less even about the amount of money raised and more
Mm.
about the profitability of the money raised,
Mm.
using this strategy, right? Because you're getting why would I? It's like not playing fair, right? Like why would I do it any other way? Why would I not do crowdfunding? Because I'm
Mhm.
like not playing like why wouldn't I do that?
Yeah, no doubt. There's a couple points that I think are worth mentioning. Uh, Again, and I want to give context to people who haven't been through this to understand the value of what Thomas, I always call you Tom.
Either or, Tom's fine.
What?
Tom's
Tom,
good.
so he's a Tom.
Yeah.
With Tom saying, because, if you haven't gone and tried to source product for a physical product as a first time person going to China or wherever the heck it is, good luck.
Yeah.
For me personally, I didn't know what I was doing. I knew through the grapevine that you needed a sourcing agent. I went on Upwork and I worked with like 3 or 4 different sourcing agents, and I was trying to put together like this package of different products. And so I had to find different sourcing agents for different factories. And turns out there's these epicenters in China. If you're going in China, this could be any country that has products that you'd be going and finding factories for or producers for. And there's all this nuance to that sourcing process and that construction process and the intellectual property, in terms of the who owns the molding for the thing that you're creating and who owns the packaging, who owns the design, who owns the like. And so there's this question of, if you're going to China, do you own the brand? Do they own the brand? Can they
Mhm.
resell it? So there's legal, there's IP, there's actual like the design process. So you have to have like, have you ever designed packaging before? Have you ever designed a product before? Have you done the little labels on the back?
Mhm.
And so it's kind of crazy if you haven't done this before. And the reason I say all that is I thought I was going to find a product sourcing agent, and I thought I was going to go and just do this in 3 weeks. And I was going to have some stuff on because you go on Alibaba and you look and, oh, I can order this.
Yeah.
Now, the thing that I realized was, look, there's so much nuance. Yeah, in principle, you go find a factory and you buy a product and you get a certain amount ordered, but there's a lot of nuance. And so if you're doing all of that without any proof that that product you're about to buy actually sells, you are taking a massive risk. And what I did was I ordered
Huge.
$30,000 of inventory, like
Oh,
a shit ton of products. I brought them all over. I put them into a storage unit, just like you're talking about. And I did a 4-month launch campaign via contest. I had 13,000 people on my email list. I thought I was about to like crush. We launched. We did $3,000 the first day. Second day we went to 2,000. Third day we went to 1,000. By the fourth and fifth day we were down to like $300. And I was like, nobody else is coming in. What do I do? And I was like, I got to run Facebook ads. Did that for 8 months, couldn't get unit economics to work. And I just realized the business doesn't work. And I was like, too late to the game, didn't have product market fit. There was too much competition. And I was 100 grand, 200 grand out the door, and about 2 years wasted of my time. And I could have just known all of this without spending a dime.
Yep. Yeah,
So,
because
anyways, context, you
yeah,
know.
no, it's the just the number of stories we've had, and it's funny because like, we had a lot of clients that had that experience, and then we came in, helped them launch their next product, what I would consider to be the right way, and then have that success, and even be able to make up for the loss from that initial campaign, which is awesome because killing it for our clients is, like, what got me going. Um, but yeah, it's really because like, and I'm happy you talk about unit economics, right? Because that's what it's all about. Like that's what I teach. So like I do guest lecturing at universities and all that is like it is all about getting traction and getting those unit economics as early as physically possible, like before the product is real. And that's what made Launch Boom really special is we developed a program called Test Boom which
Mm,
was before you go and you launch a crowdfunding campaign, because a crowdfunding campaign in and of itself is a test, but you
mhm.
can test the test, right? So even before that is you can create again, here's the whole secret. You're getting like the full download right here, right now, which
Stay
is
tuned.
right. Stay tuned. Now, this is it. This is
Mm,
it. It's this simple. It's this is the very simplified version. It's much more complex than this, of course. It's much more challenging than this. But the simple version is if you build a landing page, you send traffic to that landing page, and you test those unit economics you by spending money on Facebook, you will know if you have a good idea or not. That is what that is all about, right? And that's, and even
but
if,
even before you finish that statement, unit economics, guys, is just simply how much what is your profit margin per single unit sold based upon your cost of acquisition, so your CAC, cost of acquirement, cost of
cost to
Jesus
acquire a
Christ,
customer. So CAC
cost of
is
acquire CAC,
yeah,
yes, CAC.
or
I know the
CPA
acronym and I forget what it
cost per
means.
acquisition. Yeah.
And then there's the actual average order value on the first roll. Now, do you do unit economics on the single product line item, or do you do it on the average order value?
So here's the thing. If we're doing crowdfunding, we're usually focused on one singular product,
Mhm.
right? So we're focused on like a blender, or if you have an app, right? You're thinking about an app. And so you might need to think about again, things like apps, courses, things like that. Those unit economics are a little bit more complex. But just to keep it simple, let's say I'm making a really cool here, I've got a smartwatch, right? I'm making a really cool smartwatch. It's $100 and I need to know whether I think it's gonna be sold for $100. I need to know, okay, do I have a business here, right? Because a business isn't like, do I have product? It's, it's flying off the shelves, like understanding your economics, understanding your metrics, that is what truly says whether or not you have a business. Not a vision statement, not the goals, not the values, which are all very extremely important. It is the unit economics. And so, for example, let's say I have $100 product and I want to know, okay, do I have a business here? So I think I want to sell this for $100. Let's say it costs me $30 to make the product, right? That gives me, okay, sorry, $30 to like make, so I'm going to say landed, right? So $30 to like get this into the hands of the customer. So like shipping, and I'm assuming it's free shipping,
Taxes, blah, blah,
right?
blah, yeah.
Taxes, all that jazz,
Storage, yeah,
storage. Let's say it's
logistics. Yeah.
$30, right? Let's say it's $30 for this product and it's $100 product. Okay, cool. So I have $70 of wiggle room. Now, if I go start advertising on Facebook and it costs me $100 to get a customer, I don't have a business,
Mhm.
right? If it costs me $50 to get a customer, I might have a business, right? Because then you need to think about, okay, there's only $20 profit margin there. Is that really a business, right? Does that give me enough wiggle room? But if I can, maybe I'm only getting a $20 cost per acquisition. Okay, wow, awesome. We have a
Mm,
business. This is
mhm,
fantastic. Let's go sell a whole boatload of these.
mm,
Because I have much more margin to play with. even if I do need to potentially spend more, or
And so
if
just to give more context or like a more concrete example, even from my experience was when we went to Facebook, this is like circa 2021. So this is like right
yeah,
after the Facebook slap, like
yeah,
where everyone
yeah, it
was
was
getting
definitely fake
crushed.
fake lab, yeah.
Yeah. And so I originally was like selling a single set of products like you would on a website. Uh, and I was just, the average order value was like so low. It was like 20 bucks, 30 bucks. And I was like,
Totally.
okay, we got to get this up. And so I was like, so that's when I actually went, I can't remember Ezra Firestone's upsell page.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah, yeah,
remember the software he
yeah.
uses. I'm a subscriber
Zip
right now.
zip
So
pages, yeah.
Zip pages, yeah. So we added that on the back end, which means like they would make a purchase, and then we did all this, everything you can think of, from like the Clavio follow-ups and the upsells and the cross sells. But on the after the original purchase, it was like, do you want to buy 3 more bottles? Like you guys did, right? For
Yeah, yeah, of
for
course.
Organifi.
Yeah.
And despite all of that, I could never get the average order value above like 80 bucks. And every time I would like raise that the price, or I would play with the pricing, I would play with the offer, I would play with the bundles, and I would try upsells and cross sells and downsells. And I got crazy upsell like rates. It was like 30% and then like 20% on the downsell. It wasn't like, maybe that sucked. You can tell me. But the point is like I
That's
could never get the cost to acquire a customer less than like 80 bucks or 70 bucks or
mm,
something. And so I always had a $10 gap, and it drove me nuts. Like, this seems like, oh yeah, no big deal. Like, there's a gap. Like, you'll fix it. It's like, dude, this kept me up for like 7 months of my entire life trying to figure out this little $10 gap on that single sale.
mhm,
Because once you get the single sale like gap that's profitable, it's like, okay, I can scale it. And the problem with Facebook, at least at the time, was I I would have like a running campaign that would work great for 2 weeks, and I'd have like 4x ROAS, return on ad spend, and I'd be like, "Oh, I'm killing it." And then as soon as I would try to add any dollar like to scale it, it would just die. And I was like, and
mhm.
I tried to go broad, horizontal, like adding more ad sets. I tried to do the vertical of adding more ad spend. I tried everything. I tried every interest. I hired all these Facebook guys, and you're probably listening to this going, "Yeah, you idiot. I could have saved you so much money if you
Yeah,
just did
probably.
X."
More
So that's
more content is the answer, but
So wait, say so okay, like, use me as an example. What would you have done given all the things I just said? Like
well,
drop
I
some
would
wisdom.
yeah, I mean, I would need to be in your ad sets to, like, really understand what was going on there. Again, before doing any of that, I would have tested it, right? I would have understood I
Mm.
have the $80, okay, my cost to acquire customer is $80, and so I have to see if people will buy this product for that price,
And so
right? And
so,
so
like, walk me through an example. Like, imagine you're
so
launching eyelashes, and what would you have done to like, what would your test have been?
yeah, so, I'll get into, like, the more nitty-gritty of, like, the advertising, like, tips and tricks, like, I'll touch on that for a second, but before I do, I wanna tell just a little like, a even before that situation that's really
Okay,
good,
sure.
right, is, like, it would be product first, right? So, like,
Mhm,
before we even get into that is I would test the product, right?
mhm.
I would discover, okay, hey, it cost me $80 to get a customer. That's, not feasible. That's, I
How do
don't
you
have a
know that, though?
product.
How do you know it costs $80 at this point?
So, even if I don't have any inventory, what I'll
Right.
do is I will either do one of two things. Either I'll pretend I have inventory and then just refund them at the end of the process.
Mhm,
So, you literally build the process like you have inventory, and then they go through and oh no, sorry, actually we're sold out. But
mhm.
that tells you, okay, you've actually got inventory. Like, so they would have purchased. They could
Right.
have, right? Or I'll do what we do at launch was we do like like a reservation, like a reservation rate, or again, another way to look at this would be like a pre-order, right? So get people to pre-order the product just off of a landing page, and that tells me again like what the cost to acquire is on that pre-order or maybe on that reservation. And so the
Mm,
reservation could be anywhere, it could be like $1 if it's like a cheaper product, or it could
mm,
be, when we were doing reservations for, e-bikes that were like multi-thousand-dollar products, we were doing like 40, 50, $60, $100 reservations,
mhm.
right? And so, which is a fantastic case study, which we could get into, but I'll
Okay.
keep focused.
And
Is
just real quick though, on
yeah,
to pause on that. So this is all obviously on the e-commerce kind of physical product side, and on the software side, you'd call that vaporware, where you come up with like a pitch deck. Like in B2B sales, you're selling to businesses which don't like, very rarely do people understand a demo. or
Yeah.
even like the product nearly as well as they possibly could. And so with some sales pitches, like super B2B, I'm talking about super enterprise, where they like it's like deep into the like tech stack and you couldn't really demo it anyways. And it's more about understanding the problem and articulating the value prop. Uh, just in terms of like, hey, here's the set of problems we solve and here's the solution explained. You can actually orchestrate a pitch deck without ever showing a single screen of an app.
Yeah.
And you can see if people like agree with your problem and and the ideal solution that you're pitching. And if and you could literally sell I just sold a $40,000 piece of software off of that. Now we have a one of the best in class apps, so that's a little different. But my point is, even if we didn't have that, I could have sold the piece of software. So it's so true that like you don't have to start. Now the difference is this is like a big difference is that in software, I used to do the vaporware angle. The problem is that if they say yes to that $40,000, you probably couldn't actually build that enterprise level piece of software within 12 months. I mean, seriously, you
No.
couldn't, like the
Yeah.
way that you pitched it. And the problem is
Yeah.
the market moves so fast. And with these big enterprise customers, you don't get a second chance. So it's a really stupid idea to do what I just said. I've made a lot of mistakes that way. But it's the same idea is that you can test the market. Do you feel like you're burning people at all or burning the market at all when you do this testing? Or is the market just so big in these e-commerce plays that it doesn't matter?
A, I think it's too big. It's really big. It's really, really big. And then B is we're telling them that we're taking them on a journey, right? We're letting them know, like that's the thing is like with what we would do at Launchboom with our test boom process is we let people know, hey, you're putting down a reservation, and we're going to launch this on Kickstarter and Indiegogo, right? But you're the pre people and you're like the super VIPs, like before we're even on these crowdfunding platforms. So we're gonna like hook you up. And so we're providing them with value immediately by giving them a discount or inviting them to like a Facebook group where we're, communicating with them. They're even giving more feedback on the product, which is fantastic. They're getting the behind the scenes look. They're getting to go on this adventure of seeing a product come to life, which is really cool. So we're giving them immediate value. Other brands that do things like that are, you're giving them what we call a lead offer. Or if it's something that's paid, it's then called a tripwire, where you're giving them a free report or a guide or a printable document. Or, in the case of Project Evo, which was a really, 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 really cool business that we crowdfunded, they raised over $1 million for a physical planner. And I don't think I have one on my bookshelf, unfortunately. But what we did for them, their lead offer is we had people wanted to learn their unique brain type. It's like how your brain works, and people could take a quiz to learn their unique personality. If you think like 16 personalities, it's kind of like that,
Mhm.
where you just took a quiz, you could, get your brain type and then reserve the product. And so we're like layering that, customer acquisition funnel.
Yeah.
But going back to the lashes, that's exactly, what we'd do first is we'd see, hey, does this product have legs? We'd spend maybe $1,000 to $2,000 of ad spend. And you learn pretty quickly that like, okay, yeah, no, this is really expensive. This is really expensive. Maybe we don't want to go into this space. Maybe we want to go do a slightly different product. Or what
So can we pause
right.
there for a sec? Because that is like what you just said is like it's
Yeah.
in the sense that if you can get that testing methodology down and you understand that like the devil really is in the details here because
Mhm.
you need to know one how to test. You need to know what the whole strategic. Oh, that was weird.
Yeah.
You need to know how to do the. It just showed a thumbs up if you're listening on audio. So you need to know how to do a like structure the funnel, structure the ads. You need to know what exactly is the offer. Is it what does the product page look like, and then also like how do you like when do you know what are your KPIs? Like what are you looking at? Is it like
Exactly.
what's the
Exactly.
average cost per click? What is the average cost to acquire customer? And so all of
Conversion
those
rate on your landing page.
conversion rate. I mean, there's all these important key components of that entire experience. And also that doesn't go on to mention is that like, what if you're giving up on like, let's say you put up like a single pack of eyelashes, right? And my crazy bundles ended up being like 5 different eyelashes with a like a mascara bottle with like some eyelash curlers, and there was all this other stuff bundled together. I mean, what if you run a campaign and you don't get a good outcome on that one particular product, but if you bundled it all together, you would have had like a showstopper. So how do you make sure that you're not like anyways, I'm asking a bunch of questions or making a bunch of points because
Yeah,
it's complex, you know? And
it
and so how
is.
would you
No, it
like
really is.
can you walk us through some of that complexity? Is there any like kind of like high level
Abs
like, okay, crash course?
Absolutely. So first is again, it's creating these hypotheses. Hey, okay, this one box of eyelashes. Let's see what it costs to sell this thing. Okay, cool. You go do that. That's a product. And if it failed, it failed. Great. That doesn't mean necessarily scrap the eyelashes. Now we can do one of two things. We can, as you said, we could bundle, we could change the price. There's a couple different, there's like these different levers that you're pulling, right? And so on a low price point product, of course, the number one thing to do is look at AOV. How can I bundle this? So instead of selling one thing, instead maybe let's sell a package of things, or maybe let's sell a package of things with a subscription,
Mm,
right? So maybe you've got like a $80 AOV and they're signing up to like, get a $30 bill every month after this, right? Or maybe it is just a $30 bill that's then happening like again, Dollar Shave Club kind of deal, right? You're
yeah.
like signing up to get it every single month.
Right,
And
exactly.
so and so you're testing that bundle, right? So that's exactly what I would do is I would say, "Okay, the single pack didn't work. Let's rework the landing page to just sell the whole bundle and really focus on like the stage of the funnel is focused on like the stage of the and so let's go try that time. If not, maybe look to another product." Another thing that's also really interesting is, I'll give another story. So this was for spring. It was a really successful six-figure, like mid six-figure. When I say mid six-figure, I mean like 200,000 or higher. Crowdfunding campaign. And when we first started working with them, they wanted to sell their product MSRP for like 120, and then the discount they wanted to give people was uh, in the 90s, like 90 to $98.
Mhm.
And we started looking at the unit economics, and that just did not make any sense. They had like no margin. I think their cost to acquire was maybe 60, but their cost to make the product was, you know, 50 or 60 as well.
Right.
And so if we
Mhm.
sold it, even MSRP, like they're cutting some because you need to have that, of course, ads aren't always going to go well. So you need to have kind of like a nice squishy margin there. And I did some research, and there were a lot of competitors that were like uh, not very good, right? That were just like kind of Amazon leg massager. Like if
Mhm.
you don't know what Spring is, it was a wireless massager. You'd put it on your like calves, and it'd like massage your calves, and it was
Mhm.
wireless. You can like run and massages your calves. It's
Mhm.
really cool. And so there was in the space there was really cheap ones that you get on Amazon that were like heavily wired, or there was like I can't remember the name of the competitor, but there was these like really like full leg, like $2,000, $3,000 ones. And so there was
Mhm.
nothing kind of like outside of that. And they were trying to kind of compete in this smaller market. And I was like, no, 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 no. So I came in. The first thing that I did was I just went into their landing page and I changed the MSRP from 120 to 350.
Really? That
So
you went up
that's it.
3
That's all I
times?
did. I just was like, done. Like
Oh
you're
my
now, you're
god.
now much more expensive. And, maybe don't quote I can't remember if it was, 350 or 250. But again, the moral of the story is I increased the like, the MSRP by a lot.
Mhm.
Guess what happened? It seemed like a much more valuable product. People were more excited by it because it seemed like they were getting us even when we then instead, what we would sell it for is we'd still sell it for 98 because that's what we promised people. But then once we hit crowdfunding, we would then sell it for 120, which gave
Mhm.
so the really early people got that like super sweet $98 price point, which was just
Mhm.
really thin margins. But then when we
Mhm.
launched on crowdfunding, it was that 120, you know, okay, now we're a little bit more healthy. And then when they went to MSRP, now they're in the like 250, 350 range. And
Mm.
so yeah, it improved our conversion rates. Our cost to acquire went down, not up, because I think the value of the product was seen as much higher. It was now a more luxury product. It was not seen as like it was not competing with these cheap products. It was now competing with these, much nicer products.
And
And
just to add a
awesome.
point there, just from the SaaS side of things, uh, because I'm sure there's people listening that are SaaS. Maybe we've already lost all the SaaS people, and they're
Yeah.
like, we only have the e-com
Right.
guys left. But from a SaaS perspective, the number one thing I do when I go into a company, because when I'm a VP of sales or a fractional VP of sales, and I'm going in and I have to make the biggest move first. Because again, it's like kind of like the Alex Ramosi thing is get in and provide value immediately. The number one thing you can do is pricing. And so
Mhm.
in the number one way you can increase price is just increase it. Um,
Yeah,
the
exactly.
the other next best way is to productize and splinter out products from a core product. And even though it seems like that would be hard to do in SaaS, one of the companies that I work with is it had a core product. They were charging it at it was $10 a month per user or 99 per year, and they increased it. We just increased it by 50%, just like overnight, and it did not hurt conversion. And we rationally just said to the guys, "Hey, we haven't increased prices in 3 years, or we actually haven't done that for a long time. We've improved the product a lot, and this is the price." Still worked. And
Yeah.
then what we did after that was we wanted to launch an enterprise level product because there's like that idea, like crash course on pricing methodology for SaaS, but there's the idea of like, and this is general for business or online sales as well, is like if it's over $1,000, it's kind of hard to sell online through a funnel. That Pod 8, I get it.
Yeah.
They're selling it for
Totally.
$3,000. Like that's an option. But for the
Yeah.
average mortal, it's hard. Uh, Feel free to just disagree on that price point, but
I was gonna say,
there's
if you're selling
good.
an e-bike, $3,000 all day, they'll do it.
So it depends
Believe it or
upon the
not.
category.
Yeah, it depends on the product. Yeah,
Yeah.
product
But
category.
there is an upper threshold of like the expectation. Obviously, you might be thinking like, well, I bought a motorcycle for $15,000 on eBay. Okay, fine. Counterexamples all day. I'm saying generally speaking, if the average order
Totally.
value is less than say 3,000 or $4,000, it is in this weird zone of like that $2,000 to $3,000 mark where you're like, do I
Yep.
sell this with a salesperson or do I sell this online? And I could be all wrong on that piece. Let me just say that. But my expertise is enterprise sales, and I can say it's very difficult unless you have massive viral growth of something led by product referrals. It's very difficult to sell a product in
100%.
profitably if it's not above $4,000, $3,000 AOV, and I'd like it to be above 5,000 minimum. Uh, and so, but the thing is when I came into this business and they had this just $120 per user seat. So average user seats would be about 10 users, 15 users. Our AOV was $1,200 a year. And so what I said is like, hey, we're going to split out these features of the product into a second tier, and we're going to split out these features of the product into a plus tier, and also do some product development to create a whole new product. And now we had basically the basic, the middle tier, and the highest
Mhm.
tier. And there in the SaaS world, the methodology is like, okay, whatever your lowest price is, if you want quick pricing, find out where the market's at on that base product, and then double it for the middle tier, and then double the middle tier for the a little bit lower than that, but double the middle tier for the highest tier. And that was essentially how we came up with pricing. And I tripled AOV, doubled AOV overnight,
Awesome.
simply because of this. And we increased the enterprise value by several $1,000,000 just because of pricing. So pricing is like boom. I mean, let's go.
No, exactly, 'cause we did the same thing. So Test Boom, when we first launched it, man, some people got a steal. It was, uh, $2,000, or sorry, it was $3,000 to pay us and then $2,000 of ad spend. So $5,000 was like the first Test Booms we ever ran. When I left Launch Boom, we were charging 25K for a Test Boom. And
Mhm.
so that was exactly 100% it, was just increasing the price.
And generally,
'Cause
for me, when I test, at least on the enterprise level, I start higher than I would
yes.
expect the market to be, and then if I don't sell, I lower it until I hit the selling rate, versus if you start low and you start getting people saying yes, you have this awkward thing where you're like, "Hmm."
Yep.
Now all the Alex Hormozy fans in the world are like, "But shouldn't you give away like 5 free and then just go up 10% from there?" Totally viable, like the whole giving away things we were talking about in the beginning,
Yeah.
totally works. But when I'm thinking about like testing the business model, not just can I like get a first case study, I'm talking about like more at the macro level of I'm going into this market and I want to see like what my average order value can be. Uh, and this is like more of a niche market and you're not sure if there's a business there. My suggestion would be go see if there's a buyer in the market that has a price point of that world of like $10,000, $20,000. Now, this is like for anybody who doesn't sell in that price range on the B2B SaaS side or product side, that sounds insane. It's not. B2B buyers who are used to spending 20,000, 30,000, $100,000 on software, even in a small market, is very normal. But anyways, I digress. I just think there's always gonna. I think the moral of the story here is that like there's always a competing idea. There's no right way. There's no like
Totally,
perfect
totally.
thing, you
Yeah,
know?
no, no, it's absolutely, no, and I love that you're adding the context of the SaaS side of things, and I love that you're adding the context on the B2B side of things, because it's really cool for 2 reasons. It's really cool that you're adding that because 1, for the end viewers, it's not all not everybody's B2B. Even again, I struggle with that with my students. Um, some of my students are B2B, some of my students are B2C, and so getting both sides I think is so fantastic. And then
But
number
there's
2,
crossover, right?
it's exactly. There's a ton of crossover, and that's what I love is like when like you can learn so much from both sides, and that's where you can start doing some like really cool, crazy, sales strategies, where you're taking some concepts from the D2C space and or the B2C space, and you're putting it in the B2B space.
Mhm.
And, I think that that's really cool and really fun. And so knowing that again, I think that's really cool, especially as a sales professional. I know you're, top 1% of 1% of the people out there. And I would attribute that to, I think,
Pretty
your
much.
vast
I'll
yeah,
take it.
your hey, we're own it. We gotta own it.
Own it.
Attribute that to your just vast range of experiences, right? Owning a direct to consumer brand, e-commerce brand, and then also working in, the B2B SaaS software space, and everything in between, nonprofit space, right? Is like that's so important because but the thing that like is the same in all of them is the ability to tell stories, right?
Mm.
The ability to, connect with the customers, the ability to tell us there's these things that are like always the same. And then there's the pieces that do change, but you're able to kind of like flex and put on different gear based on the, given situation. But the more tools you have, the better your toolbox is. So I just think that's really cool.
Yeah, it's interesting because like we're talking about testing fundamentally at the earliest part of prototyping and buying and building businesses. And the thing that I have realized that is like extremely different between B2C and B2C, B2C and B2B is that B2B is like pretty hyper logical. It's like literally, if you can articulate somebody's problem, like articulate the
Mhm.
problem and say, are you guys, for example, one of the businesses is Wellsite Navigator, and they have this problem of guys getting lost in the middle of the desert. And so if you call up a company, Ideal Customer Profile, and you say, hey, do you guys have guys driving out there on the lease roads and do they get lost? Uh, and if the guy has that, if you would say it in the right way, you're literally perfectly describing one of the major pain points of that IDC. And so if they say, yeah, I do, well, boom, all of a sudden you're like, okay. And then you'd be like, we offer ability for them not to get lost. And in fact, it would dramatically improve your operational efficiency and save you a lot of money. Do you want to talk about that? Is that interesting to you? And they go, yeah, I do. And it's like, well, immediately you have some level of traction where it's like in the B2C world, and maybe I'm missing something here, but if I ask somebody, "Hey," like for the eyelashes thing, the incentive for buying the eyelashes is a lot more mercurial because it's like, are they like, for example, it ended up being 50 to 70-year-old women buying this product. Uh, in my particular business, I know that other very similar businesses were selling to 20-year-olds. So in my particular business, we found the niche in the older crowd, and maybe that's why the business failed. But the thing that was interesting was when I asked them, I surveyed them after buying, and they were like, "We just want to look beautiful when we're in the privacy of our own home when we look in the mirror." And if I had asked them the original reason I thought that they had a problem, like the obvious problem, which is like, you know, you want to look good generally. You want to look good for like a significant other, or you want to just feel, look beautiful. Um, it was more nuanced than that. And if I said that, they'd be like, yeah, kind of. But it's really like, for me. And so, I guess I'm thinking out loud here, but like it, the number one thing that allowed me to ultimately tell stories and to actually sell to those people was it wasn't as like obvious as like, oh, you get lost. It was like this very specific emotional thing. Whereas in the B2B world, it's kind of like, yeah, our guys get run over by tractors, or we get stuck in the mud, or, the server gets overloaded and the website crashes. It's like there's a very obvious thing. And
Mhm.
sometimes you can do that in B2B, B2C. Like, you want to look more muscular, right? Kind of, but it gets more into the emotional side. And maybe I'm not making sense here, but I always found that very complicating. And so that's why I've always stayed in B2B for the most part.
It's so funny you say that because there's a tool that I love. It's called the consumer-based brand equity pyramid, and I'm gonna, like, grab a piece of paper here, and I'm gonna, like, draw on a piece of paper, and I'm gonna hold it up here. I'm gonna show you. So, the way the consumer-based brand equity pyramid works, this is, like, one of my favorite tools. It's this, like,
Okay.
little triangle,
Okay.
right? You see a
Gotcha.
cute little triangle here, okay? So, this is your brand. Okay, this is your brand, okay. If we wanna go like, if I say something
Explain,
like,
just
do you
explain
own your
explain what you're doing for people listening, because that
Yeah, so people listening, I've drawn a triangle with some lines in it, on a screen, so but don't worry, when I explain this, if you're just listening in, it'll make sense without needing to see what I'm showing people on the screen. So, the first question is who, like, truly owns and controls a brand? So, like,
mm,
when I'm talking about a brand, I'm thinking about, like, if I say, like, Tony the Tiger, if I say, like, McDonald's, right? McDonald's has spent billions of dollars getting you to taste that cheeseburger the second I said the word McDonald's, right? You can,
mm,
like, almost smell it. You can see
mm,
it, you can smell it. That is billions of dollars of advertising hard at work, right? And that is a brand. And what's interesting about a brand is, if I say McDonald's to you versus McDonald's to somebody else, it could be different, right? It could be different if I go to, like, somebody literally sitting in McDonald's right now, right? Because to you or me, maybe like, ew, McDonald's gross, right? Unhealthy. To somebody else, it's like their idea of a hot Tuesday afternoon. But the idea is we don't own the brands, right? The McDonald's, right? Like Tim Cook doesn't own the brand Apple, right? Even as the CEO. The brand lives within the minds of the consumers. It's something that is intangible. It is something that is like a piece of almost like a piece of real estate that you're buying.
in their
And
minds.
this tool in their minds, right? And this
Mhm,
tool that I'm showing on screen, which is literally just a triangle, so you can think about that in your mind, is a tool to identify how a brand lives within your mind. So if I was to like take a picture of a brand's like real estate, right, the plot of land that that brand is taking, the consumer-based brand equity pyramid is how we would examine that plot of land that that brand has spent millions of dollars doing.
mhm,
And so to understand the pyramid, at the base to build a pyramid, right, we've got to like build it from the ground up. And so the first level is salience. So that's brand salience. So if I say burger, right, like, oh, I want a burger, right, you're going to have like a bunch of different ideas come to mind. I want to go buy a burger. So for example, that's, anything from McDonald's burger, because we're talking about McDonald's, to like the $20 really expensive Wagyu burger at the like fancy restaurant down the street, right? So there's product opportunity. And so that's what the first level is if you don't have brand salience, if you're not even an option to solve whatever problem they're looking for, then you don't have a brand. Now, as we move up the pyramid, I could do a whole class on the consumer-based brand equity pyramid, but I'm just going to talk about this next level here, which is on one side, you've got performance, and then on the other side, you have imagery. Performance is things like, you know, uh, the price, the points of parity. So, like, what makes you the same as the competition, the points of difference, what makes you different. What are all of the different like your features of your product, right? The like hard facts, like what makes you special. How durable is it? How reliable is it? How effective is it? We're not judging those things. Those are just like the performance features. On the other side of the pyramid, you have imagery. And so those are things like brand associations, those emotional pieces that you were talking about, right? The like seeing if I see something or see that image, right? That's what that is. As we move up the pyramid, imagery becomes feelings, right? And so feelings, again, now we're taking the images and we're drawing associations from them. And then on the other side, performance becomes judgment, right? So those are like Yelp reviews. And then at the top of the pyramid, we've got brand resonance. This is you and me. How is this product making me a better mom, dad, business owner, etc. Right? Brand resonance, you and me. Most founders love this thing up here, but it's everything else that really drives this. And so when we think about products, this is a very long-winded way of saying when it comes to any product, whether it's B2B or B2C, you'll notice that there's these two different pathways. So remember, we talked about how on one side of the pyramid, you have performance becoming judgments, becoming resonance. And then on the other side of the pyramid, you had imagery becoming feelings, becoming resonance, right? Look pretty similar to like left brain, right brain. Okay, well, there's a reason for that, right? Is one is left brain, one is right brain, right? One is logic based and appeal to logos or logic, the other is appeal to pathos or passion, right?
Mm.
And different brands do better with every business has both, right? Every business, absolutely 10 out of 10. The most boring of boring, non imagery B2B businesses do have imagery and emotions and feelings. But
Mhm.
that might be a part of like Delta Airlines. Um, and so, but each business basically relies on these tracks differently. And so if
Mhm.
you have a business that's, you know, again, usually beauty products, right? A lot more, I've seen more feminine businesses can a lot of times lean into that more appeal to passion,
Mhm.
more than that appeal to logic. And so
Mhm.
again, you're a very logical person trying to fit
Right.
yourself into this, right? Appeal to passion thing, which
Right.
is like, so that's another thing is like selling what you know is I'm sure probably something that you promote and talk about. You can totally do both, and that is a sign of a good
Right.
salesperson. You are amazing and I have sold on both sides of the spectrum. But
Much more
it
successful
does
on the
depend.
logical side, though.
Yeah, right. So,
Yeah.
because things like Organifi, right? Like Organifi green juice, like I can show you all these like beautiful pictures of like moms like having fun with their kid, drinking green juice and like having all this energy, or it can like basically be like, hey, do you have a cortisol belly? Right? You know, that belly fat that like isn't going away. You want to get rid of that? Well, you need to get rid of the cortisol. How do you get rid of the cortisol? You need ashwagandha. Guess what? Clinical dose of ashwagandha in the green juice. Drink the green juice once a day, you're gonna get rid of the cortisol belly. Let's go. Right? So you
Let's
can
go.
do both, right?
I'll buy that.
Right? Both sides of the right, you'll buy that, right? I'm buying
Exactly.
that. I'm
Logical. Yeah.
logical based too.
Yeah.
And so very left brain. And so that's it. It's like again, we can do like any advertising, and that's a lot of times marketing versus sales. Sometimes you might see this happen too, where marketing can be more passion based and sales is more logic based. But that is, why I love the consumer based brand equity pyramid is like that's how I think about brands and think about marketing initiatives is okay, who's my customer? Are they more passion driven? If they are more passion driven, then I need to focus on that side of the pyramid more. Like think like Liquid Death is a great example of like a
Yeah.
fantastic, emotion side, appeal to passion side of the pyramid versus I don't know, name other or Prime Energy or Prime Beverages or whatever, right? Versus, some of these other ones that are just logic driven.
Well, it's I think anybody listening to the first part of if I got clipped on that first piece of like the B2C to B2B, like logic versus like, and you just gave this like eloquent, like perfect, like breakdown of the different emotions and whatnot, they would think I was an idiot. I would say that, let me add some context to the B2B side. I would say that the ultimate decision is almost entirely purely logical. However, like meaning like, do you make or
Oh,
save
totally.
the money?
Totally. Totally.
But I'm gonna go back to the emotional side, is that in the B2B world, you have a buying committee. So you have obviously you have your end user,
Mhm.
you have the influencer, you have the IT guy, you have the stakeholders who are like usually financial decision makers, et cetera, et cetera. The thing that like is so important that I admittedly don't focus on enough is the emotional incentive for each of these pieces of the pie, the stakeholders within this overall
Mhm.
buying committee, that group of people that have to collectively make a decision, is how do they politically interact, socially interact with each other, and
Totally.
what raises their status amongst the group. And so, yeah, all, at the end of the day, ultimately, it is like, okay, does this make money or save money? But the thing is why would for example, like the lowest level end user who does no care in the world about budgets or profits or anything, why would he care? And what's his driver to like, even if I'm just cold calling into that guy, asking about his problem, and he's like, yeah, I do have that problem. Well, one is that he emotionally gets frustrated and it's a horrible experience. And he's just
There
like,
you go.
"Ugh,
Yes.
I hate this."
Yes, 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 yes.
But also it's like, why would he want to make a reference up to his boss? And the reason is, well, he wants to look good, so he gets a
There you
pat on
go.
the back by the boss. And it's like, well, why else would he want to solve it beyond just frustration and looking good? Well, perhaps it helps him get home an hour earlier, so he spends more quality time with his family. And so, there, to not like completely throw the B2B world into the logical world, it's clearly not that. You're dealing with humans, and so you can tap into this emotional side. I would say, generally speaking, I have done a pretty good job, specifically in the oil and gas industry. And I work across all those types of people, the lowest, the low level, like field worker, all the way up to the CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. And I would say, generally speaking, the thing that really moves people because everyone can rally around this, like, we're going to save a lot of money thing because they all know it's going to make them look good. And I think that's ultimately what it
Yeah.
comes
Oh, yeah.
down to. And so,
Yeah, totally.
anyways, we're deep in the weeds here, but it comes back to like when you are positioning a product at the earliest stage of the test, this is where it's like for me, it's easy to position a B2B product because as long as I can go that mom test book we were talking about, where you go and you find out the
Yeah,
problems
yeah,
and
yeah.
you
Oh,
dig
yeah.
into it. If I know the
Love it.
problem,
Love it, love it.
I can quickly test an angle. Whereas it's not as like verbal. I think it's clearly not verbal because I just call people and I have a lot of conversations where is in this like product land, it's almost all like statistics. I mean, am I missing it, or do you guys actually physically call these people and talk to them and like get to know the customer like I would on a B2B side?
You can, yes. There's a
But did
really you
you?
can. I don't, know. I don't. I prefer the more the not version of that. I prefer the, hands off, especially as an agency owner, right? I prefer the what is gonna get us the furthest with the least amount of effort?
Mm.
Or not even effort, effort's not the right word, but, like, what's gonna what is the best time to money ratio, right? It's kinda like, for what you're talking about, I would think as a B2B if I was a B2B SaaS owner, I would rather just pay you more money than go hire a film crew to go make this, like, emotional piece about how amazing this thing is, right? I would like, that's just not gonna have a big like, the when, the money hits the road, right, that's just not gonna have a big ROI, right, where it'd just be
But
much
I think
better
that's
to
this important point that you're making though, because it's the reason for that is the decision making roadmap is significantly more complex in B2B. And so even like that's why you have these like companies like Sixth Sense. I'm not sure if you've heard of Sixth Sense, or it's like these
mhm,
account-based marketing agencies that are all content-based. And the idea is if you perfectly articulate the buying journey across all these stakeholders, that you can produce case studies and content and blogs for every avatar, and you perfectly feed it up at each
mhm,
point of that buying part of the journey. And I've never really bought into that like perfectly articulated funnel because every major deal I have ever done at any Fortune 500, and I'm talking about the most complex, archaic deals on planet Earth, which is oil and gas software into these massive behemoths with 100 people buying committees. It's all different. Every conversation is different. Everyone has completely different perspectives and emotions. And it's really, frankly, hard to put that into just like one piece of content that's going to solve all of those biases and political innuendos and whatnot. And so I found that the only way at this point, as far as I can tell, to really effectively sell, say, a $500,000 deal or $1 million deal is to go what I call green beret, where you go in and you are like the first guy on the ground and you got to find the tribal leaders within the tribe and you got to go deeply, like anthropologically study these people and go, well, how would you do this? And how would you do that? And who was related to this process? And oh, that guy doesn't like this guy. And well,
Ah,
that therefore they're going to do this thing. And so you get to know that organism. And then you put together the value prop with all of that information. But to be able to write a piece of content and just perfectly hit that one person with all of that
yes.
context is impossible. Whereas like you're selling a bottle, a water bottle, the mom or the dad who's just coming off the gym and sees something on Instagram
Yep.
and can go, "Oh shit, I needed one of those 5 minutes ago." Emotional click, and they purchase. It's just a different buying structure, and I think that's a big part of the difference. Maybe this is also obvious to
Yeah.
everybody
No.
listening, but
No, 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 because it's really important because it's like, well, what do you want to be like? It's like at
eh,
scale too, right? Because like at scale, because I could, for example, go hand sell every single one of these, like, let's say I'm selling Wonder bottles, right? I could go hand sell them, but like that's not scalable. And so I
mhm,
know that like if this low, I say low effort, but it's not low effort. If this low, like, well, I'll say low effort activity is able to drive this revenue, then I really have a business on the like small product, B2C, D2C, B2C side of things. And so I'm testing that is the process that I'm testing so that I know that when I then go to scale, I'm going to be able to scale this out to a whole bunch of people.
and that was part of like one of the things that I really didn't like about the e-com business. I'm so jaded because I tried once and I failed pretty hard. But so
Yeah.
I'm a horrible like representative of the e-com space, even though I was a business owner. Uh, the thing that I recognized was that fighting for a $10 or $20 or even $100 profit on a or $500 profit, it's like even if it's automated, I was just like, oh God, this sucks. Like I'm like, I want like a $50,000 check in the bank tomorrow.
Yeah.
Um, and and so the thing for me was like I never I never got past that, and a big part of the reason I never got past that is because I realized cash flow was a big problem. Like inventory, levels and cash flow actually was a massive game, and what I mean by that is that if I
Hmm.
have an average order value of, say, $60 or $70, and let's even say that my cost to acquire was 50 and I was making or 40 and I was making a $20 margin on it. It's like, okay, maybe that kinda works, kinda, if as long as you have some repeat sales. But where I was at is I was either break even or really like 20, $30 off the mark. And it's like, okay, that's fine if you have a good, lifetime value customer and they come back, and you don't have to spend a lot more dollars to re-engage them and get them to buy again. So how sticky is the product is a big concern. And what I was finding was that my lifetime value wasn't actually that bad. They would probably double on the average order value. But in order to realize that lifetime value, I had to wait 9 months. And so they would come back
Oof.
like every 2 months or 3 months, and so finally, I would make double the original investment, and I would make my money back, but in order to do that, I had to cash flow. I'd invest a lot more money, go
Yep.
into debt, and then wait for that to come through, and if you are doing that at scale with a lot of inventory, you're putting a lot of
Oof.
cash up front before you're waiting for more shit to come in, the product to come in. So I hated that because it was like a big debt cycle, and I was like, "Oh my god," like, I
Yep.
just wanna live in profit land, and maybe that's just, like, super,
Yep.
silly for the the professional, like, veteran ecom person like yourself, but it just drove me nuts.
No, no, that's so a thing. Because again, the only way that you really get to live in profit land on the e-com side is knowing that like especially post, the Facebook slap and all that is like I getting below like a $30 cost to acquire is like almost impossible, right? Like
Mhm.
it is absolutely doable. We have Organifi ads running right now that are definitely doing that. But like generally speaking, you're not going to be getting, 30 to $50 cost to acquire is like the norm. And so if you have a product that's already that price, you're just already like really struggling. And so you need to look at things like TikTok with the new TikTok affiliate program are ways to kind of like really help that. But yeah, really understanding those unit economics and again, yeah, that debt cycle, like, dude, that sucks. I know I have a lot of friends that have done stuff like that, it can be really challenging. And so we've found that either you've got a consumable product that is, like Dr. Squatch, which is again a bar of soap, like bars of soap that you're constantly getting, or you're, William Painter, you've got a pair of sunglasses that are like $200, $300, or you're Lomi with a multi-$100 desktop composter, or you're an e-bike and it's a $2,000. So you got like nice margin in there.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, it's either like big ticket with a big margin, high markup, or really great, return. The best of both worlds. I think Dr. Squatch absolutely killed it because I think their cost on products was insanely low, and they were able to ask. I think like I don't know their I don't remember their unit economics, and I don't want to misquote that, but that and it was a subscription product, set them up for a ton of success, and they had a massive exit. So
Yeah, totally.
yeah,
Well, I know we're gonna be running out of time here, shortly, but, one last thing. Given all the things we discussed,
yes,
we've been talking about testing. I I remember somebody saying when I got started in e-com specifically, there's like, "Okay, you need, like, to at least your price point should be 7 times landed cost," or something, or it was like 7 times cost and then, like, 4 times landed or something like that. I don't know if that was, like, the exact number, but that was what I came up with. And so but then, like, that doesn't really account for, like, the actual true average order value and the cost to acquire. And so really what your whole thesis is, which makes perfect sense, is go figure out all those other points before you ever place a dollar into product development, so that you
absolutely.
understand that you're making a profitable business decision from the get-go. And so if with that being said, if you were launching right now, like you said, okay, I'm going to launch a product, physical product, what price point would you choose? What type of product would you choose
Mhm.
in what industry? And yeah, just give us like if knowing all like if you had to boil down the AI of Tom into the perfect offer,
Yeah,
what would you do right now?
yeah, great question. So just based on the experience that I've seen, as much because at Launch Boom, our favorite clients were these like high price point products.
Because
I
of the
would
margin.
probably do one of because of the margin, yeah. And so I would do one of two things. If I went high price point, I would go real estate. So that's what I would do. Is
Okay, wait,
I
say
would
more about
crowdfund
that.
an experience. So I'd
Okay, so you'd
crowdfund an
actually do a
experience.
non-physical product.
Yeah,
Have you
and so
seen
you're
that
basically
done?
pre-ordering. Oh, we've done it. We launched it. We were the like that is what we were known for was of among many other things is bubble hotels, mirror hotels. We launched hotels literally raised million plus dollars for these hotels before they ever broke ground. And
Mm,
so literally had their first year of bookings booked before they ever broke ground. Right? That's an industry that like nobody's doing. And so it's starting after mirror hotels and bubble hotels, and people started to kind of see the writing on the wall on Kickstarter and Indiegogo from our campaigns. Now they're, because bubble hotels was the first. That was like the first like successful real estate rewards based crowdfunding campaign. Um, and so that's what if it was high ticket, I would do that because it's just it's
and how
nasty.
high
It's
ticket is that? What was the offer? Mm.
uh I think the AOV was here I can pull it up. So I'm not misquoting it. If you go to Mirror Hotels Indiegogo, just type Mirror Hotels Indiegogo, you can see what the perks were. Here, hold on.
I can share my screen
It
too.
should be listed. Yeah, if you want to do that. It might be on the page. It used to be on the page. I don't know if it still
Is it
is.
a mirror hotel is a perfect
Um,
blend of nature and luxury?
yeah, Yeah, so this was it. You can see, I mean, you can do the math, right? So 1.6 million raised, 1,300 backers, right? So you can see what the AOV was from
Are
that.
you which one? So I'm looking at the one where it says export. That's obviously not right. Am I being so stupid? Are you
Oh,
looking at
sorry.
the?
Yeah, you're it. Sorry. Yeah. Now, sorry. I was looking at my own tab. Yeah, go back. Just go back to
I just was here under
Google.
mirror
Yeah,
hotel.
that's it. Yeah, that's it.
So wait, now
There
where
it is.
is it?
Oh, scroll down more. Sorry. Keep scrolling.
Okay,
There you go.
obviously I
You
don't
have
know
it
what I'm
pop up.
doing, guys. Okay,
There it is.
gotcha. Cool.
There you go. Sorry. So yeah, so this was it. So you can see 1.6 million raised. They just finally opened like this last week. Is they actually opened uh their hotel for like an actual stay. So like what you're seeing there is a render.
Got it.
That is a render, right? You're like showing
I
people working on stuff and it's all renders.
I remember seeing this. I remember seeing this camp. So you guys were behind this?
Yep.
Oh, that's hilarious. I remember being like, "That's so cool."
It's on
Like,
a if you go to the landing page is Tom's Finds. I'm Tom from Tom's like that's
yeah, so it's
exactly
good. So how do I go to
the
Tom's
whole
Finds?
thing.
So Tom's Finds. Is it here?
There you go. Yeah,
And what do we
we're
type?
not updating it anymore.
Hotel?
It's well if you just go Mirror Hotels. Well there's Bubble Hotels.
Didn't mirror.
Um yeah, I don't know if it's still I don't know if the site is still up.
Hmm. Well, regardless, I get the point.
It's
So
not.
now,
Yeah.
what was the average like donation that you had to make? What was the offer? Is it fact?
I'm surprised it's not showing up. No,
Maybe
it
it
used
was.
to show up there on the right-hand side, but unfortunately, we're gonna have to use a calculator here to figure this out. So, 1.6 million was raised from uh
1349.
1,300 backers, right? So average AOV was $1,200.
Mm. And that was like listed. So you guys would say, hey, you have to make a donation of like 1,000 or 2,000 for certain types of nights. I'm gonna stop sharing.
Yes. Yeah. So it wasn't for it was yes, exactly. So it was like get a week stay, get a 3-day stay, that's what they were booking. And so the average of the one night stay, right? And the more nights you booked, the better discount you got. And so the average was a $1,200 um package. Which included a certain number of I can't remember this. I don't remember if it was like $400 a night or $500 a night or $600 a night, but
Mm.
that was that would be the high ticket product that I would 10 out of 10.
And so
Um,
you would go with some type of like experience, and would it be real estate and hotels, or would it be something else?
I really like Meow Wolf's Omega Mart.
Mm.
If you're familiar with that, it's again just really cool. So I would do something in like the experiential space, um, or so I do that end that's high ticket, or I would do low ticket, um, uh, like consumable. So like I think Organifi is a fantastic product. I think anything that you use daily would be the other end of the spectrum that I
Yeah.
would. So like powders, mixes, juices, drinks,
Mm. And that's because there's
personal
repeat
hygiene.
customers, lifetime value.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's funny you're saying real estate because I was talking to a guy, this kind of a similar look that you had. I think it was called like pod form or something like that, but it was like this idea of like a, how the tiny home movement's a big deal. I used to live in a van, so I'm all about
Hmm.
the that tiny home life. Uh, and there was this guy who I saw essentially his render, and it was this idea of like a collapsible home that like, we've all seen those cheap Chinese kind of collapsible home things on Alibaba. Maybe we all haven't, but I have because I'm into that
Yes, of
crap.
course.
Um, but this
Yes.
guy had like a super high tech version of that automatically, like almost like a Tesla truck for a home. But it was like a tiny home, and but the thing that made a difference was it had biometrics built into it was like how we have a whoop strap. It was like a whoop strap meets the Elon Musk's truck meets tiny home off grid, completely movable. And it then had this thing on the glass where it was like kind of a heads up display. of like the entire health of the house and yourself. So it would show like your sleep patterns, the health
Wow, that's
battery
awesome.
charge. And it was, I saw it and I was like, dude, this is so awesome. And I think he did some type of crowdfunding thing, but his whole model was that he was going to try to sell these at like for like 500,000 a pop. And I was like, that's pretty seems pretty steep. But I'm like, I think what you could do is lease them for like 3,000 or 4,000 or 5,000 a month,
Yes.
and then plot them down on like BLM land, in the middle of nowhere, and then or yeah, do it like as like luxury homes, where it's like an Airbnb style.
Yep.
Um, but it was just interesting because it was in the real estate space. It was super high ticket, and I even considered like working with the guy. I was like, dude, I think I could like help you with this because it was so high ticket. But that's it. That's very interesting. What do you think about like software? Would software ever
Oh,
work on
software also
crowdsourcing?
totally, yeah.
Have you guys done
We
that?
we've done it there's been 1 or 2, but generally speaking, software just doesn't do as well on crowdfunding. I would 10 out of 10 love to get into software because I know software does well, but as far as this model goes, um, and my own personal experience, I would do the real estate. I would do I think, again, that apps there's a lot of promise there for sure, but just as far as, like, my skill set goes, or I would do that, like, consumable product. I think Liquid Death's strategy was fantastic. Make a viral video that sells the product, try to get pre-sales. If it does well, great, go do the product. If it doesn't do great, don't do the product. That's
And
exactly
that's
what
what
I
they
would do
did.
on the
They just
consumable
created
side.
one viral video and they launched it on a Kickstarter of some sort. That's
No,
the whole
so they
story.
did and again, when I s yeah, that's the whole story. They didn't do crowdfunding via Kickstarter and Indiegogo. They did, um, just pre-orders on their website. So again, same when I say crowdfunding or rewards-based crowdfunding, it could be there is a benefit to using Kickstarter and Indiegogo, which is if you've got the right product that fits well with the platform, you can get a ton of organic traffic. So your ad dollars are going a lot further. And so you're getting like, if you're spending 1 customer, Kickstarter in some situations will give you an additional 3. So fantastic. That's why we would say go with Kickstarter because you're tapping into a pre-existing community. But if the food and beverage space doesn't do very well on Kickstarter, some consumable products don't do well, like a soap might not do well on Kickstarter. So I would
Mm.
just do pre-orders on your own website.
And so then the strategy there is they put up a landing page or a website with a product page of some sort with a, hey, pre-order and we'll deliver on some date. Kind of like almost like they're building their own Kickstarter page. I mean, essentially what it is, right?
Exactly.
And then they're creating a
Exactly.
viral video and then they're launching it on Facebook through ads, or like what's the actual go-to-market strategy in terms of like promoting that video? Because the whole thing you started with was you could have this beautiful video that just never sees the light of day. Like, how do they make sure that that happens? Is it standard media buying or?
Great question. So one is twofold. So one is definitely media buying is one way to get it going. The other is friends, influence, etc. Right? That's why like one of the other things that I would recommend everybody does is like if there's a area or something that you're really passionate about, start building a community.
Mm,
Right? So like if you know, if you want to sell whether it's a B2B product or a B2C product, whatever it is, go build a community, whatever you're passionate about, right? You're even seeing this in like, I'm really into airsoft, like the airsoft space. You're seeing these like YouTubers that are just doing airsoft videos. They build this massive, like million plus community. Then they go launch their own, airsoft replicas. And then make millions and millions and millions of dollars doing that. And you're starting to see that more and more. People like Iman Gazdi launching his own who is a, online B2B coach, whatever,
mm.
launching his own beverage company. And so that's, even the first step before that is if there's something you're passionate about, go try building a community for it. If you can build a community for it, chances are you can definitely sell it. And so with Liquid Death, they got lucky, right time, right place. They posted the video to YouTube, it went viral, so on and so forth. If you wanted to kind of do something similar, but in today's day and age, you might need to, go develop like a TikTok following first, or go partner with somebody that has a great social media following, which is a
Yeah,
whole other, we'll do another podcast on how I grew myself to over 75,000 followers on TikTok and my wife to over 1,000,000, but that's a whole
Yeah,
other
that's another viral hook.
podcast.
So I guess the last thing coming full circle, just since we're talking about the core of the theme of this whole thing is it's like, how do you go to market with lower risk? And understanding like what business model to choose, what product, what industry, what method, what's the right way and the wrong way. And one of the things that we're finishing up on here, last subject, last little thing, is this idea of building this community. And as you know, like with my own method right now for the social media, the personal brand. I've been hearing for years, build your personal brand. It's a great way to like build
Yeah.
a vibe around you and an audience around you so that people will take you more seriously, et cetera, et cetera. And there's a bunch we can say there. The thing that I've struggled with the most as I'm going through the journey of I launched benjaminaaronreed.com. I took professional photos, I launched the landing page and I positioned myself as serial entrepreneur, multi-time VP of sales, which is all true, all true. But in terms of the offer, I've tried like, okay, I'm going to teach account executives how to be VPs of sales. Then I'm going to help CROs launch fractional work, like go find fractional works as VPs. And then I found out those guys didn't want it because I was testing the offer through outbound email, which is a whole nother podcast. Uh, and I was like,
Yeah,
well, those guys don't
which I
value the
love.
offer. So like, I guess coming back full circle, most of my testing and success because I've been B2B is very direct response, very identify your ICP, go and like laser targeted, get in front of them and say, hey, man, make offer, jump on call, try to sell it. The whole audience angle is like so different. And as I'm like, you're seeing this like day one, day two, day three journey I'm doing on Instagram where I say, I'm launching $100,000 a month business on social media, follow my journey type of thing. And I know I'm just blasting that out into the ether. And I'm like my current target audience is like uh, B2B agency owners. And I'm like, I'm just taking a random gamble here that out of all the people that possibly like and share this video, that maybe I'll get one agency owner versus like building the community around, like I only talk about B2B agency growth. And where it's been frustrating for me is I'm kind of like, letting it out here is that when I try to go niche, very specific B2B agency owner type of content or anything that's very IDC, ideal customer profile centric, is that most 99.9% of people don't like it. Therefore, the algorithm on these social media networks don't pick it up and I get 20 views.
Mhm.
Whereas like if I make it, and this is like all the viral guys, the coaches that I talk to, kind of like even you're like, make more generalized content that anybody could like, but still has some type of hook into what you're doing. Uh, and now that I'm doing this journey of launching this thing, all of a sudden people give a damn and I'm getting 800 to 1,000 views per video where I was getting
Yes.
20 before. And the craziest thing happened last night. One of the guys that reached out was like, I'm actually in marketing. I'm a B2B agency owner. I didn't say anything about B2B agency owner. And like, he was like, and I just want to say, like, I appreciate the marketing you're doing. And I'm like, dude, like, this is like so weird.
Yes.
And so it's like, maybe that's the answer is that like you put out content and if you are like enough, you are representing the person that you're selling to enough that there's going to be some type of cosmic attraction. I don't know, dude. Like it seems so woo woo and so strange to me because I'm so B2B and direct. So do you have any thoughts around what I've just said? That's like the final thing I want to get your take on.
Yeah, I mean, it's like watching a movie, right? Is like you look to the person, you wanna be that person, right? You are a reflect it's like a dream, right? It's like you're a reflection of that person that you're seeing, right? You're seeing Captain America and you're seeing yourself as Captain America, right? There's that like mirror neuron experience that's happening. And
But what's so
so
weird about this is on my journey, as you say, I'm actually admitting fully and right out in the world vulnerably saying, look, I have launched several businesses, multi-million dollar businesses for other people. I made people millionaires. I'm not a millionaire, and I'm a current active VP of sales. I do well, but I'm certainly, and I've been a multi-time founder. We've sold a business for 7 million. I only own 10% of that. But at the end of the day, Like, I'm not your Alex Hormozzi's out there. I know a lot and I've had some success, but I don't know if I'm definitely not the Captain America that you would think of. And so when I go on social media and I say literally that and people follow me back, it's like, I definitely don't think I'm representing the Hormozies out there. I'm like, would
Well,
that guy still want to learn from me?
right.
You know?
Well, it's like, again, we can't forget that where did Captain America start, right? Is he just started as like a
Skinny
scrawny little
dude.
kid,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? Like where did you're right? That's the superhero paradigm, right? Is like you're taking people on a potential superhero journey, and they see that they can see you're giving them a taste of the future of Captain America, and you're showing them where you are now in a relatable way, which is where they are. Because if you can do it, they can do it,
Yeah.
and so
Touche.
that's why it's I think
They want
so
they wanna see the
intoxicating and
evolution
awesome.
of self, and I think that, like, that comes back. Have you ever
They
read
want to go on the journey.
they
They
wanna go on the journey? Have you read Heroes 2 Tales or whatever it's called? Heroes 2 Journeys or something like that?
I know. I mean, there's a ton of books in that space that I'm familiar with, but
Like, this is the last thing just to finish cap this off is Heroes 2 Journeys is basically the idea that, like, the coming back full circle to LA, cinema, telling stories is that there's 2 journeys happening when you watch something. There's the journey of, like, the typical plot. Hero's journey, call to action, guide comes in,
mhm,
directs them to go on a journey, where there's a bunch of guides that come out to continue to support. He goes through trials and tribulations, almost dies, almost loses his shit, and then somehow through the miracles and graces of God, he comes out and he defeats the monster and he saves the princess or whatever it is. Drops the ring in the volcano. And that's like the obvious action, like thing that you think you're coming to watch. But the thing that Here's Two Tales or whatever it's called goes on to talk about is that you're actually invested in it because of the development of the character and how they themselves evolve in shift in their values and their takes and their skills that enables them to accomplish the thing that they ultimately accomplish. And that's what's more compelling is the character development. And I think I'm like, I know all this, and yet I still have to ask the question, why would they want to? It's like, duh, dude. Like you teach this shit. I literally have a video about this.
no,
So it's
no,
like so
you
funny.
know it. Well, well, dude, it's all good because that's the perfect thing to end on. Because again, applying it, just like your courage, man, I think is awesome. Determination is awesome. I'm here, like 100% help you realize that goal and more, as you know. And I think that's the perfect note to end on because pointing the like laser ray of growth on yourself, right? Selling yourself, hardest thing you could do. So versus, go sell another company or another product, right? Putting yourself out there, that vulnerability, that, all the above, insanely, like insanely challenging. Let alone
Yeah.
all of the other details that are involved with producing content. So great work, man. And
It
I'm
is
excited to
strangely
follow
different.
along and hopefully be a part of the journey.
Appreciate it, man. Well, so do you want to leave anybody with any plugs or any calls to action, any brands or your own personal follow? How do you want to feel free to plug anything if you got anything before we go?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I don't have any. I'll probably be launching a beehive here soon, and so if by the time this airs, definitely join my newsletter, which I'll give you a link to. I'll be creating a newsletter, so feel free to join that, which would be awesome. But feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, which would be fantastic. I know I don't really post a whole lot yet, but excited for things to come later this year.
How would they find you on LinkedIn? What's the full name?
Thomas Dadourian on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Okay, exactly as we introduced you. Okay. Great. Well, go ahead and follow him on LinkedIn. Really appreciate you being on, Tom, and we'll obviously be talking again soon. Hope everyone liked it here. Next Gen Sales Leaders signing out.